Welcome back, lads, ladies, and other False Nine Show listeners. Today we are breaking down how Arsenal's squad players have performed for their respective countries at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's start, of course, with the big news surrounding Gabriel Jesus. So we are all aware at this point that he has had an injury to his knee, and it has been confirmed by the club that he is going to require surgery. Based off of preliminary reports, it appears that he has had a full meniscus tear and a partial tear to one of the ligaments, most likely the MCL. The MCL is responsible for 40% of all knee ligament injuries. So that is the one that it is most likely, and the timeline for this varies drastically depending on the surgery and what is required in each individual situation. It can be a recovery of anywhere from 4 weeks to 3 months. So we really don't know, and unfortunately we just kind of have to wait and see. So we really don't know, and that's probably something that they're going to have to find out when they actually start the operation. But it is major news and a huge setback for Arsenal's title push chances. There are questions now of whether or not that is going to affect our business in the January transfer window, and there is an emerging debate over whether or not Eddie Nketiah has the talent and the quality to step into the shoes, to fill the shoes of Gabriel Jesus. We of course gave Eddie Nketiah a 5-year contract in the summer. We gave him the number 14 shirt. We're paying him over £100,000 per week. He is our out-and-out number 2 striker choice. Now, that being said, at the start of the season, if you figured something like this was going to happen, you think Eddie Nketiah would just be asked to fill the shoes. However, Arsenal find themselves top of the table at Christmas, top of the table going into the new year. We are well and truly in a title push, and if we want to continue that title push, we are going to need a striker better than Eddie Nketiah. So the club needs to look internally. Mikel Arteta and Edu need to sit down with each other and look internally and decide whether or not it is worth it to go out and splurge on an expensive world-class striker who can compete with and fill the shoes of Gabriel Jesus while he misses time. It also kind of depends on whether or not Gabriel Jesus is missing 4 weeks or whether he is missing 3 months. We really don't know, and that's something that we're going to find out in the coming days as the surgery actually takes place, as the recovery process starts. I think we're a little bit lucky in that we still have 4 weeks or so before the January transfer window actually opens, so we have some time to kind of get our cards in a line, to figure out, make a plan, and figure out how we are going to attack this squad management over this very important January transfer window. We have not had a January window this important in years. Yes, I know the window last year was very important, but that was mostly for getting rid of dead weight, and that's how it's been over the course of, Edu and Arteta's time in charge. I think we are a buying club in this window. I don't think that there's really much argument about that, is that we are looking for players. We're of course linked with Mykhailo Mudryk, who is a wide player, and Danilo, who is a defensive midfielder out of Palmeiras in Brazil. So we know that the areas that we need to strengthen are in the wide areas of the pitch, particularly competition for Bukayo Saka and cover for Thomas Partey. However, this injury to Gabriel Jesus has opened up a new hole in the Arsenal squad, and it is yet to be seen how Arteta plans to fill that, whether he plans to use Eddie Nketiah or Gabriel Martinelli to fill that place. It remains to be seen. In my personal opinion, there are kind of two ways that this could go. I think that if Gabriel Jesus' recovery looks to only be 4 weeks or so, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something where he is back by the end of January, I don't think that Arsenal will be looking to buy a new striker. If it is something a little bit longer, if it is worst case scenario and it's 3 months, I think that we will be looking to go out and buy an expensive striker. A potential name that I personally really like is Gonçalo Ramos, coming out of Portugal. He's at Benfica currently, having an excellent career so far there. Of course, he was second fiddle to Darwin Núñez. We do, of course, see how the Darwin Núñez transfer has played out. The striker moved from Benfica to Liverpool in the summer for about £80 million. It hasn't worked out great for Liverpool, so there is a potential negotiation tactic there where we might be able to knock a few million off of the price tag of Gonçalo Ramos. It remains to be seen. He's a little bit bigger of a striker. He's a little bit bigger of a profile player. He's has a more well-rounded game than Darwin Núñez has. So far, it seems, of course, they are both very young. He's 21 years old. He seems to have a good first touch, clearly has an eye for goal, a good finisher, and seems to be very fluid in the way that he builds up and works off of the other players in the team. I think he would be an excellent fit. That being said, we don't know his price tag. We don't know whether or not Arsenal will actually move for a striker in January. So at this moment, the Gabriel Jesus and Arsenal striker situation, I'm sorry to say it, it's a little bit up in the air. We just don't have enough information to make intelligent decisions and predictions at this time. And I think as the days and weeks go on, probably by the end of this World Cup, by the time the final is actually played, we'll have a better understanding of what Arsenal plans to do in January regarding Gabriel Jesus and the striker position. Moving on to a little bit brighter news, of course, Bukayo Saka is having an excellent World Cup so far for England. He is firmly in the Golden Boot race. I think we all know that it's looking to shape up to be Mbappe, most likely, assuming that France continues to score and perform well. Bukayo Saka has been incredibly impressive every single time he's been on the pitch for England so far. He is linking up play, he is providing defensive effort, and most importantly, he is providing goals to this England team, just as he has for Arsenal over the last 18 months. Really another good showing, and just representative of the bright career that this young man has ahead of him. And I think we are all incredibly proud of our star boy, of the little Chile. Let's go, Bukayo Saka. Good for you, my man. Of course, another one of Arsenal's players in this England squad is the young Benjamin White. He was in consideration to get minutes for this World Cup. However, he had to leave it early during the group stages to deal with the personal matter. So best of luck and love to this man. I think it is very important, guys, as fans, we respect the player's privacy during this time. There isn't that much information coming out. Mostly what we know is just messages of support from other players and other people involved in the game to Mr. Benjamin White. And I think that's all that we can do, is just offer our support as a fan base. There's no use in speculating. It's only going to create problems or be considered disrespectful. So let's just leave it at that, and well wishes and love to the player. And Ramsdale, not much to talk about. Hasn't stepped foot on the pitch yet for England. Probably won't unless there's some weird circumstance that requires it. Nonetheless, he's part of this England squad, and they could end up going all the way and winning this World Cup. And that would just be fantastic for our number one. Matt Turner, another player who has had a really good World Cup for Arsenal. He went in with a few doubts over his place as the number one keeper for this US men's national team, and he has exited this World Cup with no doubts to his place as the number one keeper for this US men's national team. For the foreseeable future, unless his form drops off incredibly, Matt Turner is the out-and-out number one keeper for the US men's national team, and Arsenal have two very talented keepers on their books yet again. A really good problem to have. I don't think there are any doubts as to whether or not Aaron Ramsdale is the number one keeper for Arsenal at this current time. Matt Turner has just given a good show of himself, and where he really impressed, I thought, was his distribution, was his ability with the ball at his feet. It looks like he's just getting more and more comfortable playing in that style of system, working with Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal training group and coaches day in and day out, and he put that show on display for the US, and it really helped the US men's team out in terms of keeping possession and cycling the ball through the back line, keeping the other team out of possession. He gave a really good account of himself, and yeah, let's go Matt Turner. We're all very proud of you. Thomas Partey, of course, had a very good showing with the Ghanaian national team, who were kind of one of the surprises of the group stages, particularly where Mohammed Kudus is involved. They were unlucky to not advance out of the group stages due to a 2-0 loss to Uruguay on match day 3. This Uruguay side was very languid and unimpressive throughout pretty much the entire tournament, or I should say the 3 games of the group stages. So it's going to be a disappointment for Ghana in that regard. But they still played very well. The game against South Korea was one of the highlights of the tournament. It was excellent all around. They had a knack for picking up late goals. Yeah, good showing by Thomas Partey and the Ghanaian national team. And it's a World Cup that they will look to build on as they establish dominance on the continent of Africa in terms of football and power. Big shout out to Chris Hughton there. He's done a lot of work as an assistant coach for this Ghanaian national team. And yeah, really, really good job by him. Potentially a candidate to replace Greg Berhalter as U.S. men's national team head coach. I think we could do a lot worse. Takehiro Tomiyasu, this is a really interesting one for me because I'm not entirely sure why he's not getting more minutes for this Japan side. I understand that they have some experienced heads in there at the back, yet I think Takehiro Tomiyasu is out and out their best actual natural defender. Doesn't matter what position you want to play him, I think this man needs to be on the pitch for this Japan side. They of course went out in the round of 16 on penalties against Croatia. They were really poor in the penalty shootout, but that shouldn't take anything away from this team. They were excellent throughout. They got out of a really difficult group and played really well all around, and I think that they should be very proud of themselves. They of course had that come from behind win against Germany and a really interesting play style where they were comfortable sitting deep, not having the ball, and then being clinical, making the most of all of their chances. Capitalizing, they're getting like 4 chances a game and scoring 3 goals. They were really good. I think that they should be proud of themselves. Takehiro Tomiyasu specifically, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't get more minutes. He only started 1 game. The other 2 appearances that he had, he came in off of the bench. And it's a little bit weird to me. I don't fully understand it. That being said, this Japan team did give a good showing of themselves. They managed to actually top a group that had Spain, Germany, Japan. Who's the other one? Spain, Germany, Japan, Ghana? Who's the other one? This pisses me off when it's really slow like this, bro. Like, I'm trying to look it up so that I can just give you guys better information, and yet it's really slow all around. It's so frustrating. Costa Rica, Japan, Spain, Germany, and Costa Rica. And Japan were able to top the group of Spain, Germany, Japan, and Costa Rica. So they did a really, really good show of themselves. Weird loss to Costa Rica, but we won't talk about that. Maybe Tomiyasu would have fixed it. William Saliba, another player who is still involved in this World Cup, who is looking to go deep in this World Cup. However, he hasn't gotten many minutes for this France squad. I do think that this is a mistake on Didier Deschamps' part. I think that he should be playing instead of possibly either Upamecano or Ibrahima Konate. That being said, both players have played very well, so it's hard to argue that they should be dropped. I just think William Saliba is better than both of them. I think he's incredibly talented and should be playing alongside Rafa Varane in this lineup. But I understand why Deschamps is going with what he's going with. It's kind of hard to be too critical against him when there is so much talent and quality in this France squad that he's going with what he knows, clearly working for them so far. That said, William Saliba did get a few minutes in the final match of the group stages for France against Tunisia. Did not play particularly well, but he was not the problem for France in that game either. A kind of neutral showing for him so far at this World Cup. He's another person who is involved in the squad and he's looking to hopefully bring that trophy home. Moving on to Gabriel Martinelli, played 90 minutes very well for Brazil in his lone start in this World Cup against Cameroon. And aside from that, he's made appearances off of the bench where he has normally come on for Rafinha between the 60th and 75th minutes. At that point then, Rodrigo has usually come on for Vinicius, and Rodrigo will be moved over to the right while Gabriel Martinelli takes up his usual spot on the left. And it looks like he's going to continue to get minutes for this Brazil team in the World Cup, which is really impressive. A lot of people did not think he was going to, but Tite seems intent on utilizing all of the attacking talent that he has at his disposal. He's playing his 3-star forwards to start the match and then subbing them all out for his 3 backup star forwards to finish off the match as well. So it looks like Gabriel Martinelli is going to continue to get minutes. We'll see if that remains to be the case when they start playing some of the other big boys like Argentina, Netherlands, England, France, whoever it may be. We'll see if that continues to be the case for Gabriel Martinelli. Nonetheless, he has done nothing but impress at every single stage competition that he has performed at, and he's really starting to live up to his potential as a world-class player. And of course, wrapping things up with Granit Xhaka, who has had another stellar performance for Switzerland. However, they were knocked out 6-1 by Portugal. The man of the match, of course, for that one was Gonçalo Ramos, and Portugal just looked to be at their absolute best against the Swiss, and they're going to be disappointed in the way that they were knocked out, but nonetheless, Switzerland put in a really good display. They had a very interesting matchup against Serbia, which is of course going to be politically charged. Granit Xhaka and Xherdan Shaqiri have Albanian roots, and yet of course there is geopolitical issues between Serbia and Kosovo and Albania. Serbia does not recognize Kosovo's independence. And because of this, there's a lot of tension between the countries, and particularly from Serbia towards any Albanians and Kosovoans. This led to an incident at the end of the match where Nikola Milenkovic ended up pushing Granit Xhaka, and FIFA is now taking this incident into consideration and is potentially going to punish the Serbian FA and its fans for their behavior at this World Cup. None of that, however, is a reflection on Granit Xhaka's character. It seems to me, and from what we can tell, the information that we have on hand, that he defended himself and acted with dignity and with integrity throughout this whole tournament. That is the Granit Xhaka that we are starting to recognize, know, and respect and love as Arsenal fans once again. So, good showing from the player, and he's going to head now to Dubai, where he's going to meet up with the rest of the Arsenal team. So from 10 players originally from Arsenal heading to this World Cup, there are only 4 of them left. 2 of those 6 players who have left this World Cup did so prematurely. Of course, Benjamin White leaving for personal reasons, and then Gabriel Jesus because of his injury. So there are 4 Arsenal players still involved, of course, 1 for Brazil, 2 for England, and 1 for France. So there is a good chance that an Arsenal player ends up coming home with the trophy, which is the prediction that Just can't talk today, can I? That is the prediction that Mikel Arteta did make when asked about the World Cup. So let's hope one of our boys does bring it home, that they are happy and healthy throughout the rest of this World Cup, and that the team and squad have a lovely and refreshing, rejuvenating training camp in Dubai before they kick things back off on Boxing Day. Alright, False 9 Show listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this is a good catch-up, a breakdown of everything that has been happening with the Arsenal squad in this tournament. Our video coming out tomorrow is going to be about the Arsenal January transfer plans, what it's looking like they might do, what the options are, players that we're linked with, how Arsenal can move forward between the World Cup and January, between the restart in football, and what our upcoming matches look like, how we might shape up without Gabriel Jesus, those sorts of things. So if that interests you, please tune in tomorrow, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button so you get notifications on whenever we drop new videos. Again, thank you guys so much for joining and listening, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.